Camille stood at the kitchen sink, watching the sunlight dance on the water as she washed the dishes. It was a mundane task, yet her mind drifted far from the bubbles and plates. At 40, she felt like a ghost haunting the corners of her own life. 5 years had slipped by since her ex-husband walked out, hand in hand with a younger woman, leaving behind a house that echoed with memories and unspoken words. Get ready for an unforgettable story. Stay with us until the end, and if it captivates you, don't forget to give us a thumbs up and subscribe. Your support helps us continue bringing you amazing tales. Let's dive right in. Raising her 21-year-old son, Ryan, had become her lifeline. Their bond was special, like a thread woven tightly through the fabric of their everyday lives. They laughed together, shared secrets, and supported each other through the ups and downs. Camille had always encouraged Ryan to be open with her, trusting him with her thoughts and fears. It was a nurturing relationship, but as she looked at him now, she couldn't shake the feeling of loneliness that clung to her like a shadow. While Ryan chased his dreams, Camille found herself longing for connection beyond the walls of their small home. There were moments when she felt invisible, as if time had cast her aside. The world outside seemed vibrant and alive, full of laughter and love, while she remained stuck in a routine that felt all too familiar. Deep inside, a spark of desire flickered, a yearning for companionship, for the kind of passion she once had. But each day passed without change, leaving her heart heavy with unfulfilled dreams, echoing the void left by her past. As she dried her hands, Camille couldn't help but wonder if she would ever feel whole again. Segment 2. The arrival of Theo. Just as Camille was lost in her thoughts, the sound of laughter filled the air. Ryan burst into the kitchen, his face lighting up like a Christmas tree. "Mom, guess who just pulled up?" he exclaimed, barely able to contain his excitement. Camille's heart fluttered. It could only be Theo, Ryan's childhood friend who had become a regular visitor in their home. Theo walked in, a warm smile stretching across his handsome face. He was like a ray of sunshine, bringing energy and laughter wherever he went. The moment he entered, the kitchen transformed. His playful spirit infused the room with a cozy vibe that made Camille forget her worries, if only for a moment. "Ready to get your hands dirty?" Theo teased, rolling up his sleeves as he joined Camille at the counter. They were preparing for his mother's birthday party, and the kitchen was alive with the sounds of chopping, stirring, and laughter. The air smelled of freshly baked cake and herbs, mingling with the playful banter that bounced back and forth between them. As they worked side by side, Camille found herself stealing glances at Theo. He moved with a natural ease, his laughter infectious as they joked about the upcoming celebration. There was a spark between them, a chemistry that felt as familiar as it was thrilling. When their hands brushed against each other while reaching for the same mixing bowl, Camille felt a jolt of electricity race through her. "Careful, or I might just steal your secret recipe," Theo said with a wink, breaking the spell. Camille chuckled, but inside her heart raced. Moments like these, filled with laughter and flirtation, felt like a breath of fresh air in her otherwise routine life. With every shared smile and playful quip, she couldn't help but wonder if there was something deeper brewing between them, something that might change everything. Segment 3. The tension grows. As the preparations continued, the kitchen buzzed with energy, but Camille and Theo seemed to exist in their own little world. Between chopping vegetables and mixing batter, they found themselves slipping into more intimate conversations. Camille listened as Theo spoke about his hopes and dreams, his voice filled with passion. He shared stories about his college life and the struggles he faced in figuring out his future. "What about you, Camille? What do you want for yourself?" Theo asked, his gaze piercing through her facade of confidence. For a moment, she hesitated. How could she voice the dreams that felt so far away? "I guess I just want to feel fulfilled again," she admitted softly, the words slipping out before she could stop them. "It's been a while since I felt truly alive." Theo nodded, understanding flickering in his eyes. "You deserve that, you know? Life is too short to settle for less." There was something in the way he looked at her, a mix of admiration and something deeper that made her heart race. As they continued to work, their hands brushed against each other more frequently, sending shivers up Camille's spine. Each accidental touch felt like a spark igniting a fire between them. She caught his eye, and for a moment, the world outside faded away. The air was thick with unspoken words and feelings, and Camille felt a thrilling tension brewing. "Camille," Theo said suddenly, breaking the silence that hung in the air. "There's something I need to tell you." His voice was steady, but she could see the uncertainty in his eyes. "I've had feelings for you for a long time. It's complicated, but I can't ignore it anymore." Her breath caught in her throat, and a whirlwind of emotions rushed through her. Surprised but undeniably intrigued, Camille searched Theo's gaze, trying to process the confession. What did this mean for them? The weight of his words hung between them, changing everything. Segment 4. The First Kiss. The air in the kitchen crackled with tension, a palpable energy that wrapped around Camille and Theo like a warm blanket. As Theo's words hung in the air, something shifted between them. Camille's heart raced, a mix of excitement and trepidation coursing through her veins. She could feel the magnetic pull drawing them closer, urging her to take a leap into the unknown. Before she could second-guess herself, Theo stepped forward, closing the distance between them. His gaze searched hers, full of longing and hope. In that moment, the world outside faded, and all that mattered was the two of them. The kitchen, once filled with laughter and light, became an intimate sanctuary, cocooning them in warmth. Then, it happened, a moment so charged it felt as if time stood still. Theo leaned in, and their lips met in a soft, tentative kiss that quickly deepened, igniting a fire within Camille. It was as if every unfulfilled desire and every moment of loneliness melted away, replaced by a rush of joy and exhilaration. She felt alive, her heart soaring with each second they embraced. But as they pulled apart, reality crashed down like a tidal wave. Camille's mind raced with conflicting emotions, joy at the taste of something forbidden, yet fear of the consequences that loomed over them like a dark cloud. The thrill of their connection was intoxicating, but the weight of her role as Ryan's mother hung heavily on her heart. "What did we just do?" she whispered, her breath shaky, searching Theo's eyes for reassurance. "I don't know," he replied, a hint of vulnerability in his voice. "But it felt right." A mixture of exhilaration and confusion swirled within Camille as she took a step back, trying to regain her composure. She craved more, but the realization of what they had crossed stirred an undeniable conflict in her heart. The kiss had opened a door she could never close again, leaving her both elated and unsettled. Segment 5. the passionate encounter. The kiss had set off a wildfire of desire, and as Camille and Theo pulled away, their eyes locked in a heated gaze filled with longing. The kitchen around them faded into the background, becoming a mere backdrop for the heat building between them. With a swift, confident motion, Theo lifted Camille and placed her onto the dining table, her body landing softly on the cool surface. He moved closer, the warmth radiating from his body mixing with the lingering scent of spices and fresh herbs in the air. As he stood between her legs, Camille could feel the heat of his body brushing against hers, igniting every nerve ending. Their breaths mingled, each exhale filled with anticipation. Camille's heart raced as Theo leaned down, his hands gripping her thighs, gently pushing them apart. The vulnerability of the position heightened her senses, and she felt a thrill run through her as he looked at her with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. "Camille?" he murmured, his voice low and thick with desire. "I want you now." A shiver of excitement raced through her. With a soft, breathless moan, she nodded, unable to find her voice, the desire coursing through her like a current. Theo leaned in, kissing her deeply, his hands exploring her curves, fingers trailing along her hips and abdomen, sending electric shocks through her body. As his hands slid under her skirt, Camille gasped, the cool air meeting her warm skin causing her to arch toward him. Theo's fingers found her warmth, and he paused, looking into her eyes for permission. She responded with a heated glance and a soft, inviting sigh, urging him on. Theo's touch was gentle yet insistent, exploring her with a mix of urgency and tenderness. Camille closed her eyes, surrendering to the pleasure as his fingers began to tease and explore. Each stroke ignited fire within her, drawing out soft gasps that filled the kitchen air. "Just like that," she whispered, the words spilling from her lips as she felt herself unraveling under his skillful touch. Her body responded eagerly, arching towards him, begging for more. She had never imagined feeling this alive, this consumed by another person. Theo leaned closer, pressing soft kisses along her neck and shoulders, his breath hot against her skin. The combination of his warm mouth and the rhythm of his fingers sent waves of ecstasy crashing over her. The world outside faded away, leaving only the intoxicating connection they shared, a connection that felt both thrilling and dangerous. As the heat between them intensified, Theo shifted, positioning himself closer. Camille felt the weight of his body pressing against hers, and she reveled in the sensation. With every kiss and caress, they explored the boundaries of pleasure and intimacy, each movement building toward something inevitable. "Camille," he breathed against her skin, his voice heavy with need. "I want to feel you." The way he said her name made her pulse race, and she couldn't hold back any longer. With a soft moan of consent, she wrapped her legs around him, pulling him closer. Their bodies melded together in a perfect union, each sensation heightened as they moved in sync. Theo entered her slowly, and Camille gasped at the feeling of fullness, the pleasure overwhelming. Their bodies fit together perfectly, as if they had been made for this moment. With each thrust, the world melted away, leaving only the two of them, lost in a dance of passion and desire. The kitchen around them transformed into a sanctuary, a secret world where they could be free. Camille felt herself climbing higher with every movement, her body responding eagerly to Theo's rhythm. Their connection deepened, becoming something more than physical, It was an unspoken bond that enveloped them in warmth and urgency. As they reached the peak of their passion, Camille's cries filled the air, a symphony of pleasure and release. Waves of ecstasy washed over her, pulling her into a blissful haze. Theo's body tensed, and with one final thrust, he joined her in the release, their bodies merging in a powerful crescendo of sensation. In that moment, everything else ceased to exist. There were no secrets, no consequences, just the two of them, together in a shared intimacy that felt both thrilling and terrifying. They collapsed together, breathless and entwined, a whirlwind of emotions swirling around them. The kitchen, once a simple space of preparation and warmth, now bore witness to their forbidden connection, a place forever changed by the undeniable passion they had shared. Segment 6. The morning after, sunlight streamed through the kitchen window, casting a warm glow over the room. Camille stirred, her eyes fluttering open to a reality that felt both enchanting and daunting. The events of the previous night flooded her mind like a tide, bringing with it a rush of emotions that left her heart racing. As she turned her head, she noticed Theo still sleeping beside her, his chest rising and falling peacefully. A soft smile crept onto her lips at the sight of him, but it quickly faded as the weight of her choices settled in. Last night had been a whirlwind of passion, a momentary escape from the loneliness that had enveloped her for far too long. But now, in the harsh light of day, the gravity of what had happened sank in. She felt exhilaration course through her veins, a reminder of the electric connection they had shared. The thrill of their intimacy still lingered, igniting a warmth within her that contrasted sharply with the pang of guilt twisting in her stomach. How could she have crossed that line? What would Ryan think if he found out? The questions spiraled in her mind, leaving her feeling dizzy. As she slipped out of bed, the coolness of the wooden floor beneath her feet grounded her. She quietly padded to the kitchen, hoping to gather her thoughts. The familiar smells of breakfast wafted in from the stove, and for a moment, it felt like nothing had changed. But she knew better. The air was thick with unspoken words and unresolved feelings. Moments later, Theo joined her, running a hand through his tousled hair as he walked into the kitchen. "Good morning," he said, his voice still husky with sleep. He flashed her a charming smile that sent her heart racing again, momentarily banishing her worries. "Good morning," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. As he approached, she could feel the warmth radiating from him, and her pulse quickened with a mixture of desire and trepidation. They stood side by side, a comfortable silence wrapping around them. Camille busied herself with preparing coffee, trying to steady her thoughts. She could feel Theo's gaze on her, and each glance sent a thrill down her spine. She stole a quick look at him, noting the way he leaned against the counter, exuding a casual confidence that both attracted and intimidated her. "Last night was incredible," Theo said, breaking the silence. His tone was earnest, and Camille felt a rush of warmth spread through her. "It was," she agreed, her heart pounding as she met his eyes. But beneath the excitement lay a fear she couldn't shake. Theo stepped closer, the space between them closing. "I've thought about this for a long time, Camille. I want to explore what we have together," he confessed, his voice low and sincere. The words hung in the air, and Camille felt her heart skip a beat. He wanted more. The idea thrilled her, but it also sent a jolt of panic through her. Was she ready for this? Could she really begin a relationship with Ryan's best friend? The implications felt overwhelming, and she wrestled with her feelings. She started, but the words caught in her throat. Part of her yearned to dive into this new chapter, to embrace the happiness and connection that Theo offered, but the other part was anchored by guilt and fear, the shadows of her past decisions looming large. I know this is complicated, Theo continued, sensing her hesitation, but we can figure it out. I care about you, Camille. I really do. His sincerity washed over her, and for a moment, she felt her resolve weaken. The idea of being with him filled her with a mix of hope and dread. What would happen if she let herself fall? Would it be worth the risk, or would it lead to heartbreak? As the coffee brewed, she stood at a crossroads, torn between the thrill of new love and the reality of her responsibilities. She had always been the protector of her family, the one who made careful decisions. But now, with her heart and mind at odds, Camille felt lost, unsure of which path to take. The morning light streamed through the window, illuminating the choices before her, but clarity remained just out of reach. Segment 7. The strain of secrecy. The days that followed felt like a delicate balancing act for Camille. On the surface, life moved along its usual path, with her maintaining a steady routine for Ryan. She went through the motions of cooking, cleaning, and helping him with his college applications. Yet beneath this facade of normalcy lay an undercurrent of tension that gnawed at her every moment. Every time Ryan walked into the kitchen, laughter on his lips, Camille felt a pang of guilt. She would smile and engage with him, all the while knowing that her heart was entwined in a secret that could shatter their relationship. She noticed the way Ryan's eyes sparkled when he shared stories about his day, and she couldn't help but feel a rush of love mixed with sorrow. How could she risk that bond for something so complicated? The awkward moments were subtle, but unnerving. One afternoon, as she cooked dinner, Theo sent her a playful text, teasing her about their last encounter. A rush of warmth spread through her as she read it, but she quickly glanced toward Ryan, who was in the next room, oblivious to her racing heart. She felt a wave of anxiety wash over her. What if Ryan found out? The thought was paralyzing. The dinner conversation that night was stilted. Ryan chatted about his friends and classes, while Camille nodded along, her mind elsewhere. She caught herself slipping into thoughts of Theo, his smile, the way his hands felt against her skin, and the warmth of his embrace. Yet, every time she let her mind drift, she felt a cold grip of fear. She didn't want to betray Ryan's trust, but the thrill of her affair with Theo was intoxicating. That evening, after Ryan had gone to bed, Camille found herself sitting alone in the dim light of the kitchen. The familiar silence surrounded her, and her thoughts turned to Theo. She felt his absence like a heavy weight on her chest. They had stolen moments together in this very kitchen, yet now it felt empty without him. Suddenly, her phone buzzed. It was Theo, his message simple but charged. "I miss you." Her heart raced as she read it. She yearned for him too, but how could she justify sneaking away from her son to meet him? She felt the strain of secrecy tightening around her like a noose. Just then, her phone rang, Theo's name flashing on the screen. Camille hesitated for a moment before answering, her pulse quickening. "Hey," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "Camille, we need to talk," Theo replied, his tone a mix of frustration and longing. She could feel the tension in his voice, and her heart sank. "Can we not do this over the phone?" she replied, glancing nervously at the clock, hoping Ryan wouldn't wake up. "Why not? I want to see you. Really see you. I can't keep sneaking around like this." "It feels wrong," he said, his frustration evident. Camille felt the weight of his words. He was right. The secrecy was beginning to strain their connection. "I know, but Ryan—" She started, but the words trailed off. "What about him? We can't keep pretending this isn't happening. I care about you, Camille. Don't you want more than stolen kisses?" His words struck a chord within her. She wanted more. She longed for the freedom to explore their feelings openly, but fear held her back. "It's complicated, Theo. I can't just upend everything because we have a connection," she replied, trying to defend her choices while battling her own desires. Theo sighed on the other end of the line. "I'm tired of hiding. I want to be with you, but it feels like we're stuck in this limbo. Can't you see how unfair this is?" Camille felt a knot in her stomach. He was right, and the truth was suffocating. "I need time," she said softly, though inside she felt the urgency to decide weighing heavily on her. As the call ended, Camille sank back into her thoughts, the room spinning with conflicting emotions. The secrecy was starting to unravel the threads of her life, and she realized she couldn't keep living like this. But with the prospect of discovery looming, the path forward felt more uncertain than ever. Segment 8. The Breaking Point. The following days felt like a ticking time bomb, each moment stretching with the weight of secrecy. Camille tried to navigate her life with Ryan, while balancing the hidden passion with Theo. Every glance she shared with her son felt like a lie, each laugh carrying the burden of her hidden truth. She wanted to be present for Ryan, but her thoughts often drifted back to Theo, who occupied her mind like a restless shadow. Then came the fateful afternoon that changed everything. Camille had invited Theo over under the guise of helping her prepare dinner. Ryan had gone out with friends, and the house was filled with an electrifying tension as Camille and Theo worked side by side in the kitchen. Their playful banter filled the air, lightening the atmosphere and masking the deeper emotions that had been simmering beneath the surface. As they chopped vegetables and stirred sauces, Camille felt a thrill rush through her, a sense of freedom in their shared space. Theo stepped closer, his laughter echoing off the walls, as he teased her about her cooking skills. Camille responded with playful nudges, their chemistry igniting once more. They shared lingering glances that promised more than just friendship. In a moment of unguarded intimacy, Theo leaned in to whisper a playful comment, and Camille turned to meet his gaze. The world around them faded, and just as they leaned closer, a sudden noise shattered the moment. The front door creaked open, and Ryan's voice rang through the house. "Mom, I'm back." Panic shot through Camille like icy water. She quickly pulled away from Theo, her heart racing as she caught his eyes, wide with alarm. "What do we do?" she whispered urgently, her voice barely above a breath. Theo's expression shifted from surprise to worry, but there was no time to respond. Ryan walked into the kitchen, his bag slung over his shoulder, oblivious to the charged atmosphere. But as he glanced at his mother and then at Theo, confusion morphed into realization. The kitchen fell silent, and Camille felt her heart drop. Ryan's gaze darted between them, the innocent smile fading from his face. "What's going on here?" he asked, his voice steady but edged with disbelief. Camille's stomach twisted into knots, and her mind raced to find the right words. But nothing came. She felt like she was standing on the edge of a cliff, about to plunge into a chasm of chaos. Ryan's eyes narrowed, and the tension thickened in the air. I thought you were just friends," he said, his voice faltering. There was a tremor of hurt underlying his words, cutting deeper than any knife. Theo stepped forward, a mixture of guilt and determination on his face. But Ryan's expression hardened, his hurt transforming into anger. "You're my mom's friend, Theo. This is not what I expected." Camille felt the weight of guilt crash over her. "Ryan, please, let me explain," she pleaded, desperate to salvage the relationship with her son. He shook his head, stepping back as if trying to distance himself from the revelation. You don't get to explain this away. I can't believe you would do this." The betrayal in his eyes cut through Camille like a jagged blade. Tears pricked at her eyes as she faced the chaos she had created. "I never meant to hurt you," she said, her voice breaking. "It just happened. I didn't choose this." Theo shifted uncomfortably, torn between wanting to comfort Camille and the instinct to step away from the whirlwind of emotions unfolding around them. He watched as Camille's expression shifted from anguish to desperation, and he felt his heart ache for both of them. Ryan turned his back on them, running a hand through his hair, trying to process the shock. "I can't believe this," he muttered, disappointment lacing his words. "You said you'd always be honest with me." Camille felt her heart shatter at his words. "I know, and I'm so sorry. I didn't want to keep secrets from you. I love you, Ryan." Theo stood by, feeling helpless, caught in the middle of an emotional storm. He didn't know how to navigate this treacherous terrain without damaging the bond he shared with Ryan. "Ryan, please listen," he began, but Ryan cut him off. "No, just stop. You both need to figure out what this means, because I can't deal with it right now." With that, Ryan stormed out of the kitchen, leaving Camille and Theo in stunned silence. Camille felt her world collapse around her, the weight of guilt crashing down like a tidal wave. She had never wanted to hurt her son, yet here they were, standing on the precipice of devastation. Theo glanced at Camille, his own heart aching for her. "I'm so sorry," he murmured, unsure of how to offer comfort in a moment that felt irrevocably broken. As they stood there, the remnants of their shared intimacy hanging heavily in the air, Camille knew that everything had changed. The affair that had once felt exhilarating now seemed like a reckless choice, leading to a rift that might never heal. Segment 9. Resolution and Reflection. The days that followed Ryan's shocking discovery felt like a heavy fog settling over Camille's life. Each moment was colored by guilt and the weight of her choices. She found herself sitting at the kitchen table, staring at the remnants of the birthday party preparations they had started together, now a reminder of everything that had unraveled. The vibrant colors of balloons and decorations felt muted, overshadowed by the storm brewing in her heart. Facing Ryan felt daunting, but she knew she had to confront the fallout of her actions. As a mother, it was her responsibility to address the hurt and confusion she had caused. One evening, after dinner, she found Ryan sitting on the couch, lost in thought, the tension palpable in the air between them. It was the moment she had been dreading, yet knew was necessary. "Ryan, can we talk?" Camille asked gently, her heart racing. He looked up, his expression guarded. "About what? You already said enough." "About everything," she replied, her voice trembling. I know I messed up, and I want to explain. Ryan sighed, running a hand through his hair, the anger still simmering beneath his surface. What's there to explain? You kissed my friend, and then it became something more. I just can't wrap my head around it. Taking a deep breath, Camille sat down next to him, her heart heavy with regret. I know this is hard for you. It's hard for me too. But I need you to understand something. She paused, searching for the right words. Theo means a lot to me, but it was never my intention to hurt you. I feel lost without your dad, and I thought maybe I could find something I've been missing. Ryan looked at her, his expression softening just a little. But why him? He's my friend, Mom. That's what makes this worse. I know, and I'm sorry. It was a moment that spiraled out of control. I didn't plan any of this. It just happened, she admitted, tears welling in her eyes. I'm still your mother, and I love you more than anything. I would never want to betray that. Silence hung in the air, the weight of her words settling between them. Camille could see the conflict in Ryan's eyes, hurt mixed with understanding, anger battling with love. I guess I just didn't expect you to go after him, he finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. It feels like you didn't think about how I'd feel. I didn't, and that's on me. I got caught up in my feelings, and I let that cloud my judgment. I'm truly sorry, Camille replied, her voice shaking with emotion. I want to work through this, Ryan. I want us to be okay. After a moment of hesitation, Ryan nodded slowly, his expression softening. I just need time to process all of this. It's a lot to take in. Take all the time you need. I'm here for you no matter what. Camille reassured him, feeling a flicker of hope as they began to bridge the gap her choices had created. That night, as Camille lay in bed, she reflected on her feelings for Theo. The thrill of their passion felt like a distant memory compared to the raw pain of the present. She had enjoyed their moments together, but she couldn't ignore the reality of her responsibilities as a mother. What kind of future could she have with Theo, and at what cost? In the quiet of her thoughts, Camille made a decision. She needed to prioritize her relationship with Ryan and be the mother he deserved. She knew that pursuing a romance with Theo could complicate her life further, potentially driving a wedge between her and her son. The next day, she reached out to Theo, asking him to come over. She needed to clarify her feelings and set boundaries. When he arrived, she could see the concern in his eyes, the unspoken question hanging between them. Camille, I've been thinking about everything, he started, but she held up a hand, wanting to guide the conversation. Before we talk about us, I need to be honest, she began, her heart racing. I can't let this affair continue, not while I'm trying to repair things with Ryan. He's my priority, and I can't risk hurting him more. Theo's face fell. Disappointment etched across his features, but he nodded in understanding. I get it. I thought we had something special. We did, but I can't navigate a relationship with you when my son is hurting. It wouldn't be right, she explained, feeling a mix of sorrow and relief as she laid her truth bare. As she spoke, Camille felt a sense of empowerment. She had made mistakes, but she was determined to move forward with integrity. While the path ahead was uncertain, she felt hopeful about the possibility of rebuilding her relationship with Ryan and starting anew, with or without Theo. In the days that followed, Camille focused on nurturing her bond with Ryan. They spent more time together, rediscovering their connection through simple activities like cooking and movie nights. Slowly, the shadows of the past began to lift, replaced by laughter and warmth. Reflecting on her journey, Camille realized that she was learning and growing. She had faced her fears, confronted her desires, and prioritized her family. Life was far from perfect, but it was moving in a hopeful direction. A new beginning was on the horizon, filled with the promise of healing and love. If you enjoyed this story, please give it a thumbs up. Your support is invaluable and helps us craft even more captivating tales. Subscribe to our channel for more thrilling adventures and share your thoughts in the comments below. What did you think of Priya's journey? We can't wait to hear from you.